Get everything lined up now, guys. I really need some pregame hype music for these, like the Chicago Bulls intro theme song from back in the '90s or something. I don't know that these are these are probably not cool enough to live up to that music, are they? Yeah, probably not. So, a lot to dive into here and a lot to discuss. Good afternoon. I'm Josh Johnson. We are, of course, talking my favorite topic, which is weather. And there's much to discuss today. We have a major winter storm unfolding across a big chunk of the, country, really. I was going to say like the southern or the eastern or the blah, 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 but in reality, this thing's so big, it's going to affect everyone from New Mexico to Maine. With some kind of wintry weather, right? Now, I'll tell you, Alabama, it took a lot of luck to not have a major ice and snowstorm in Alabama out of this overall setup. This setup is a really good one. We talked about this in one of the live streams earlier this week. There's a little piece of upper air energy back over the off the Pacific coast. It came out a little too fast for us in Alabama, and as a result, rather than being pure overrunning, this became a surface low scenario. The Arctic front couldn't come as far south, so that sort of for us, specific to Alabama, sort of messed this thing up from a you won't snow and ice setup, right? For most of the rest of the country, they're not getting lucky with this. So this is the GFS, which by the way is actually doing all right. I know everyone laughs about the GFS. The GFS scenario, GFS is really good at sniffing things out first. Then the Euro is really good at nailing down the details of how it's going to go. And then if you are talking about anything past day 7, you should use ensembles anyway. So for the weather geeks watching this, there you go. We'll walk you forward in time with this. So this is valid midnight. This is the old run. Let's use the new run. So this is valid at midnight tonight. And we have an ice storm in progress across the Red River Valley of Texas. It's snowing in parts of Oklahoma, Arkansas, Missouri, and Kansas. This is all overrunning precipitation. The surface low really hadn't cranked up yet by this point. So we'll kind of go forward in time here. And big ice storm, Dallas to Shreveport, back down towards Waco and Fort Worth, Texas. Then by noon tomorrow, look at what we have here. Now we have an ice storm raging in Memphis, South Haven, Mississippi, Tupelo, Columbus, Greenwood and Greenville, Ruston, Louisiana, Shreveport, back towards Jonesboro, right on that line, ice to snow. Then it gets into Alabama, and you'll notice it's really confined up here to that northwestern part of the state. Let's do this real quick here. I liked this the other day that I did. I think that was kind of fun. So we're going to do that again. I'm going to make the mouse big and red, or in this case, I think we end up with this map tool here. But either way, you can see what I'm pointing with better. So that's cool. Big ice storm gets going across northern Mississippi, northwest Alabama, much of southern Tennessee, along and north of I-40, it's mainly snow. Initially in Tennessee. As time wears on here, you'll notice, though, it's a cold soaking rain for almost all of Alabama, minus that line. I think I laid this out in a video a few days ago that from about Fayette to Coleman to Center or so, north of that line, and especially the farther northwest you go, the longer this stays ice. In Tennessee, the snow in Nashville, Knoxville turns to ice as this wears on. So this first wave is really a lot of overrunning precipitation. All of this right here, mainly overrunning. Then we start to get surface cyclogenesis back down here. Surface low forms down in the northern Gulf of Mexico, Gulf of America, whatever you want to call it. The Gulf is what I've always called it, so I'll stick with that. Down in the Gulf. That begins to flood the mid-levels of the atmosphere with warm air across Alabama specifically. Look at this. You've got snow and ice all the way down, mainly ice, down to the Texas coast, way down into Louisiana, way down into Mississippi, but not Alabama. And then on the eastern side of it, you got a big high pressure up here feeding cold air down the eastern side of the Appalachians, which means ice down into much of central and northern Georgia and the Carolinas. So in Alabama, we're living right. And look, I know I'm a big snow fan. I know a lot of you are too. The reality of it is you did not want any part of this ice storm. This is going to be an ice storm that they talk about in Arkansas and Louisiana and Mississippi and Tennessee for a very long time, and parts of South Carolina and North Carolina and Virginia too. They're going to talk about this in a while, and I'll show you why in a minute. Okay, so this is valid at 6 o'clock Sunday morning, and we'll just kind of keep walking this thing out. The surface low deepens and moves essentially up Interstate 65 and then up around I-85 to I-59 from there. And we deal with heavy rain and thunderstorms Sunday afternoon. Then this kicks on out, and the air is bitterly cold behind it, but dry. And a note about this, by the way, I want to talk to you about this. I've seen a lot of traffic about the possibility of black ice. Black ice is where it rains, and there's leftover rain left on the roadway, and that rain then freezes. I don't think I buy that for the southern half of Alabama on any widespread level. Now, look, if you've got an area where the soil level is, the water table's high, and it drains onto the roadway in the shade, covered with trees, yeah, maybe. But for 99% of the roads in the southern half of Alabama, I think it will, a couple of things here. First off, the pavement temperatures are pretty warm. We haven't had a ton of extremely cold air leading into this, and we may get close to 70 in a lot of the southern half on Sunday, which warms the pavement up. Second thing is the air rushing in here is really dry, and it's windy. So that windy, dry air mass will help evaporate moisture off the road surface before it has a chance to freeze. So evaporation plus warm pavement, to me, doesn't really spell a big black ice setup. Now, that being said, if you're driving Monday morning and you see what looks like water on the roadway, just go ahead and assume it's an icy spot and don't do anything goofy on it, right? Slow down. Don't swerve to miss it. Just slow down. Take your foot off the gas. Do not hit the brake. Take your foot off the gas and coast right across it. It's not a big deal, in my opinion. So storm threat for us, perhaps, as we get into, this would be Sunday. So let me show you this. This is the high-res rapid refresh. I'll start this. Let's start at 5 o'clock Sunday. Okay, so most of the southern half of the state is dry. There's rain and thunder back into Mississippi. Hey, look, by the way, some of what happens in Mississippi is going to be really wild. They're going to have thunderstorms with a temperature below 32 degrees, which means it'll be like a normal thunderstorm. It sounds like it's pouring rain outside, but all that rain is freezing as soon as it hits the ground. This is going to be a really wild day for weather in north and northwest Mississippi. But we don't live there, so we'll pop you through this. And I like the zoom so you guys can see better, but we got to be able to see the time too. So let's slow our roll on that zoom a little bit. So this is now 1 o'clock Sunday right here. And you've got a couple of things here. You've got a kind of broken line of storms running along Interstate 59, and then out ahead of it, some individual cells. But watch what happens here. I'll click around. We'll sample some of the storm environments with this. I'll start with this storm that the model has up near Tallapoosa County. The temperature 64, the dew point 62, the surface-based CAPE is modeled to be 3. You don't need a lot of surface-based CAPE, but you do need some, and I'm not sure we've got enough in this forecast sounding. Now remember, this is just a model, right? But that's the data we have to go on. Let's look back down towards Montgomery with this storm. Again, this is all valid Sunday afternoon. Okay, now you're 71 over 65. The temperature 71, the dew point 65. Instability's up around 300, and that you sort of say, okay, well, there could be some strong storms in that mix. Plenty of wind speed aloft. The wind speeds 5,000 feet above the ground are really howling out of the southwest. Not a ton of directional wind shear, right? Well, that's what I'm looking at right here, these wind barbs. See how all these lines are pointed kind of like this from southwest to northeast? There's not a lot of movement here. In a classic tornado environment, you would have a more movement. You would be moving that wind speed clockwise with height, and we don't have that. So, never say never, but I think for Montgomery, the risk is still relatively minor. But you go down here into far south Alabama, and this forecast point sounding will be closer to Escambia County. You have a lot more instability. It's 72 over 68. The directional shear is still a limiting factor, but you do have some shear to work with, and there's plenty of instability. So, all this to say, the Storm Prediction Center has outlooked this part of Alabama, essentially along and south of a Demopolis to Clanton to Auburn line, for the risk of a brief tornado or some damaging wind gusts Sunday morning through mid afternoon. This is the RRFS model right here that kind of has a lot of this stuff going on. So we'll go back to where we were before. This is Sunday at 11 a.m. You get into the afternoon peak heating, you'll notice it does trip a little helicity pop down here in Covington. So, in my opinion, I don't know that I buy a severe weather risk as far north as Montgomery. I think there is a risk of severe weather. I would probably draw it more like Monroeville to Eufaula and point south from there. But look, let's just not get cute with this. If you live in the southern sections of the state on Sunday, you need to stay close to a good source of weather information. This is a level 1 out of 5 risk. That 1 is the lowest, 5 is the highest. This is not some huge tornado day, but it doesn't have to be. If you have one tornado and it hits you, it was a huge tornado day. So you don't need to change your plans around this. You do need to have multiple reliable ways of getting weather warnings and know ahead of time where you'd go if you're placed under a tornado warning. But frankly, you live in Alabama, it's January, the next 4 months are the heart of tornado season. That's good advice anyway, right? So I'm not asking you to change anything you're doing. But if you don't already have that kind of thing in place, right? Multiple reliable ways of getting a weather warnings, know where you'll go ahead of time. Now would be a good time to do it. And you've got the weekend to set all this up, right? A lot of Saturdays dry. It's really Saturday night, Sunday, where we get really wet and potentially stormy. So then this kicks out of the state, just gets down into the Dothan area around 4 or 5 o'clock Sunday afternoon. And then all of this goes away. There's leftover showers on the back end of this. That's all liquid, by the way. The cold air is there, but it takes a little while. And the other thing that I think argues against a lot of black ice in South Alabama, the timing on this, right? A lot of the colder air. So these are temperatures off the RRFS model. This is Sunday morning. You're in the 60s. That's going to really warm that pavement up. Temperatures get up into the upper 60s, even low 70s, as far north as Montgomery. Sunday before the cold front blasts through. And look, when this front blows through, guys, whoo, man, are you kidding me? Look at this. Montgomery, this is 1 o'clock Sunday. It's 71 degrees. 2 o'clock Sunday, it's 51 degrees. You may hear the temperature drop outside. I mean, this is going to be one of those line in the sand things where it gets much colder, much quicker. But there's always a but involved, isn't there? So you'll notice for us, in especially the Montgomery area and points east, the temperature doesn't get below freezing hardly at all until the cold air is sort of offset by the fact the sun's coming up, which again I think argues against black ice. Now over here in West Alabama, you go below freezing. North of Montgomery, you go below freezing. But still, it doesn't happen so fast that I really think the warm pavement and the evaporation gets 99.999% of the moisture off of our roads before it gets cold enough for it to freeze. So again, to emphasize this, I don't see any major travel potential problems in the southern half of Alabama out of this system. Travel plans north of Coleman, travel plans to Atlanta, travel plans to Tennessee, travel plans to North Mississippi, Central Mississippi, Louisiana, Arkansas, disaster, big problems. But for us in our local area, southern half of Alabama, I don't see it. We'll keep an eye on it. If the front speeds up, if there's more moisture on the roads, whatever, we'll look at that. But I don't want a lot. I've been inundated with messages from people asking about travel and canceling schools and canceling work on Monday, and I just simply don't think it's necessary. I know that makes me the lame guy, but I just call balls and strikes, guys. Then Monday is a brutal day. So the latest data, this specific data gets us to about 35 for a high on Monday, and I'll tell you right now, it's not even going to feel that warm. Let's fast forward this thing. I want to take you to Monday. These are not temperatures. This is the wind chill, what it will feel like. Monday, look at this. The wind chill gets down into the single digits in North Mississippi and North Alabama. And if you pick one of the towns out here, it never feels like more than 30 degrees all day Monday. So this is vicious cold. This is going to be really nasty stuff. Just 0% fun involved with all of that. It stays really cold, by the way. In fact, it gets colder as we get into Monday night and Tuesday morning, latest run of the European gets us down to 19 degrees. The GFS ensembles are at 20. This is again for Tuesday morning. The Euro ensembles are still updating. We won't have the newest, latest, greatest, but I can show you what they had. Actually, we do. The 12Z run just out. How about that? 19, Tuesday morning. That's actually our official ongoing forecast at WSFA is 19 for Tuesday morning. So again, this is just going to be ruthless, brutal cold. And look, it stays cold. Next week, if you go Monday to Monday, that's going to be one of the coldest weeks we've had in a long time. In terms of, we may not get to 50 degrees that entire stretch. I'm talking highs in the 40s and 30s, lows in the teens and 20s for an entire week. So the Euro ensemble here really adamant. The red line on this map is this is the normal for this time of year. So normal highs of upper 50s to near 60, normal lows around 40. And look, we're camped out below that, frankly, for the foreseeable future, which all of this was well advertised. We've talked about this for days, if not weeks now, that, that January 20th, February 10th period, if you're going to have snow in Alabama, that's going to be it, because it's going to be a cold pattern. So there's that. So brutal cold next week, storms around Sunday. The other thing we got, the elephant in the room, so there has been a very weak signal for some sort of winter weather thing out towards the end of next week. And look, the European's the most accurate model in the long range. And I want to show you all of these. Just note, real meteorologists, what we would look at for this is something called the ensembles, right? And these are the ensembles that you're looking at right here. And specifically, you would look at, this is the European ensemble. What that means is basically we take the European and we change one little factor on it, one little thing, and we rerun it a second time. Then you change a different thing and you run it a third time. Then you change another thing and you run it a fourth time, over and over and over until you end up with 50, essentially permutations, 50 versions of the European model. And smart meteorologists, particularly in the long range, you'll take those and blend them together and say, okay, what is our consensus here? What do all these different versions of the Euro see? And then we'll do the same thing with the American long range model, which is the GFS. So here's that signal that I'm talking about. This is for Montgomery at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 out of 50 Euro members pop a little snow in here at the end of the month. Now look, 6 out of 50, that's not good odds. The other thing I would point out, look at the amounts. 0.4, 0.6, 1, 0.2, 0.7, 0.1. So there's not a lot of support in the European suite of modeling right now for the idea of some sort of deep south winter storm. But, there's always a but, isn't there? Here's the GFS ensembles. All right, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out of 30. Okay, well now we're at 20%. So look, there's a signal in the data here, yeah, but it's a really, really weak one. And, 7, 8, 9 days out, the best anyone can do is tell you that the pattern's favorable or not favorable. Pattern is favorable. There's not a lot of support in the modeling for this from an ensemble perspective. And please, I'm going full screen for this little plea for sanity. I want you to understand what a forecast is and what a forecast is not. A forecast is something generated, ideally in the most accurate forecast is something generated by a human or group of humans that tells you who gets what and when and how much and how long does it last and what are the impacts and what do you need to do to prepare. That's what a forecast is. What I've seen this week on social media from a lot of fellow meteorologists is not a forecast. They're not forecasting. They're putting out these outrageous single run maps that show 11.96 inches of snow. Come on, man. 7 days from now. 11.96 inches of snow 7 days from now. There is not a computer person, groundhog, or farmer's almanac on planet Earth that can predict the weather with that kind of accuracy. It's not realistic. So the way that we do it at WSFA is days 7, 8, and 9, I will talk to you about the pattern. What does the pattern favor? Days 4, 5, and 6, we will start to talk to you about ideas and scenarios. Again, this is specific to winter weather. We can forecast the temperature pretty clearly out 8 days, 9 days. I'm talking about a winter weather forecast. Days 8, 9, 10, we're talking patterns. Is there some cold air around? Is there moisture around? That's all we know. Could snow in Texas, could snow in Virginia, could snow nowhere. Once we get inside of 7, once you get to days 4, 5, and 6, we can start to talk to you about what I call ideas and scenarios. Okay, here's a couple of ideas that are on the table. If that were to happen, here are the scenarios that you might face, right? None of this is really at the level of a forecast yet. Remember, a forecast is a high bar for me personally. A forecast is who gets what and when and how much and how does it affect you. So when you're online, be careful with these computer-generated maps. Look for a map that is drawn by a human being. And you'll know those because they won't say 11.3 inches of snow. They'll give ranges. They'll say 1 to 3 inches of snow, or 3 to 6 inches of snow, or 6 to 10 inches of snow. They'll give ranges because that's what good, responsible, accurate forecasts are. They're ranges. Snow doesn't fall evenly. You can have a great snowstorm in one county. Well, we've seen it before here. Go back to December 2017. Snowed over half a foot in Billingsley. Barely snowed an inch in Prattville. Same county. And no meteorologist got that right the morning it happened. So just understand the process here. That's all I'm asking. Understand the process. And the process is, again, in the long range, when it comes to snow and ice specifically, days 7, 8, 9, and 10, we're talking pattern. Could it happen? Days 4, 5, and 6, we're talking ideas and scenarios. Days 1, 2, and 3, we're giving you a forecast and refining the forecast. So that's, I just want to, it kind of just lets you in lets you in on how this works. So when you see a snowfall map 8 days from now, don't share it. It's just it's a computer. It's 99 out of 100 times it's a hallucination. Smart meteorologists look at what I'm showing you right now, which are the ensembles, which again, there is a weak signal for some kind of wintry weather mischief in the southeastern part of the country at the end of next week. There is. There are operational runs that show massive snow. But a run ago, they didn't show any snow. And a run from now, they won't show any snow. They will flip back and forth like a windshield wiper. So, yeah, I'm not going to show it to you. On this here broadcast, we're not going to do it like that. Or at the very least, the times that I do show it to you, I'm also going to show you the ensembles and tell you this is what actual, like, 4-year college degree, lots of math, lots of calculus, lots of training, lots of experience, by the way. This is what we use to forecast winter weather, or the ensembles. So again, that's where it is. You're going to hear a lot about it. You're going to see a lot about it. The reality is there is a weak signal for some sort of wintry weather out at the end of next week. There's not anyone alive or computer that has any idea what that's actually going to look like. Right now we're in that. Is the pattern favorable for it? The answer is yes. Pattern is favorable for it. There is excellent model agreement on the idea of a lengthy stretch of extremely cold air across the southeast. So if some moisture comes along, yeah, we'll talk about that. We'll have to have this conversation again. So there you go. Anyway, hope this was fun. I always have a good time with you guys hanging out on these Facebook chats. Let's try this. Not that. This. Hey. As always, I hope you have enjoyed yourself. I know I have. It's always fun to get to hang out with my fellow weather geeks. I use that term lovingly. So if you left a question in the comments, I'll go back later and answer all those. If not, hope you all have a wonderful day. I'm actually off today, but that's the cool thing. I'm obsessed with weather, so I'll be looking at it all day. And if I see anything crazy, I'll obviously pop back and do another live update. But for now, I think